Hello, everybody. I want to introduce you to a friend and a longstanding member of Elliott Church. His name is Michael Benn, and we're going to chat in a minute about where we are in this country and in our souls on Martin Luther King Day of 2021. Michael is best known to me for the wonderful night he treated us to here at Elliott last year prior to COVID, when he put together a program called Make a Joyful Noise. And we did that with music and poetry and little skits and so forth, and it was a great success. Michael is a community builder here and a spark plug, and it's true, and I'm in your debt, Michael. I cheer you on, brother. So listen, Michael tells me he was not born and raised in Boston at all, but raised in British Guiana as an Anglican. And then somehow when he moved to Boston, made his way to Elliott Church. Michael, tell us about what drew you to Elliott and how you came to join in 1980, I think you said.
Yes, thank you.
40 years ago.
What drew me is we weren't like church shopping. Um, I was involved in the Newton Corner Neighborhood Association. It was a group that wanted to work on problems like traffic, housing, on other issues like that. And the meetings were held at Elliott Church. And so I came to the church for those meetings. Jane Merrill was the sort of the Elliott organizer or host, and she would call us up and say, "Okay, there's a meeting on next week or whenever," and that's how I came to Elliott. And once I came to the church, I was drawn by the simple architecture, very pure, not fussy, and um, just prior to moving to Newton, we were going to All Saints in Brookline, and All Saints is Episcopal, and they have gargoyles and stained glass windows and Latin phrases and Greek phrases, and Elliot didn't have any of that, and that was an attraction to me. I didn't. I felt that it was approachable.
Oh, that's that's great. And did you get involved in the church activities, or was it mainly for you the Sunday morning worship?
Just a Sunday morning worship.
Hmm.
My kids were very young, um, and they came to the Sunday school, and that's how I got into Elliot. And after Sunday, one Sunday, someone asked me to help do the dishes because we had some function or the other. And if you go down into the Elliot kitchen and you're washing pots and pans and whatever, you become part of the community. And so after that, I felt like I had passed my initiation, and came continue to attend service.
Well, that's great. And since 1980, of course, much has changed. We've had many a Martin Luther King Day since then, of course, and but things took the biggest change of all, the biggest jump last Wednesday when the U.S. Capitol was attacked, and it absolutely shocked and shattered us to think of what happened there and what it means. And so we have a lot of feelings about this, and I wondered what you would want to share about that. Maybe there's some message you have for for those people.
My message is just that it makes me very angry to think that white people think they have a right that supersedes everyone else's rights, and they have special privileges, that they, and the cops uh, who are supposed to be protecting all of us are sympathetic to their cause, so that there's a kind of a racism that runs in America very deeply, that's supported by all white people, and including the military and the cops. That's why they were able to do what they did last Wednesday. You know, if I were out there with a bunch of other friends from Black Lives Matter, our heads would have been bashed in. There would have been blood all over the place. We never would have gotten to Nancy Pelosi's office, or run around in that central hallway with all the president's pictures, with incendiary placards. And that makes me very, very angry. And I don't think um, like it's that we should be turning the cheek. I feel at this point I'm more uh, sympathetic to Malcolm X than Martin Luther King.
Well, I do understand that. I do very well. It's so true that it was maddening. It was infuriating. And what was even as maddening as what they did is the excuses they made for it. One particular representative was saying, well, now look at what happened last summer. You had all these protests on the street and so forth, and you were, and nobody objected to that. Well, to make that comparison is totally out of line, and it was a different cause and a different, and there were millions of people involved in those protests, and very, very small fraction of people who stepped out of line. And those very likely weren't even the protesters, as we're given to understand. So between what they did and the excuses they make for it, it is awfully maddening.
But I don't know what to do about, Martin Luther King Day is coming up, and it's almost as if no progress has been made. We're still back in 1966. Well, maybe that's an overstatement. We had a black president, but I feel like unless we blacks and people of color stand up to the insults that were heaped up on us last week, we're gonna face even more of this by other people running around with Confederate flags and all of that.
No,
It all got started with Trump's insistence that Obama was not born in this country, therefore he was not really entitled to be president.
right.
That's the mindset that pervades in America. And Barack Obama is a constitutional lawyer. He knows every intricate of the Constitution a lot. He has forgotten more stuff than Trump ever knew about the Constitution.
Don't you remember that great line in the Democratic National Convention by the Muslim family? Mr. and Mrs. Khan were there, and they had a son who was, they're a Gold Star family, right? They had a son killed in action in Iraq. But the great moment was when he reached in his pocket and he said, Mr. Trump, have you read the Constitution? If not, I'll lend you my copy. I thought that was brilliant.
Oh yes, I remember that. Yes,
remember that. Yeah, it goes a long way back.
But that's the mindset that Trump unleashed in America.
Yeah.
That somehow or other, people like Trump have a right or a privilege to their racism.
Yeah, he made white supremacy mainstream, where before it was something that was in the shadows or behind the scenes, whatever you want to call it, and spread out into little groups that were decentralized. But now they're centralized around what Trump's leadership did. Yeah, it feels like no progress has been made, for sure. But, you know, we have to make our witness. We still have a role as a church and as individuals, and we have to stand up and make ourselves known. And to do this, of course, we can't do it through public means at the moment, but we have our location. We had some church members that got together and we put out the Black Lives Matter signs, and we're working to back that up with actions and programs coming from our own church. So there are things ahead that you'll hear about. Now on Martin Luther King Day itself, we won't be able to do the service in the same way. You know, I don't mean the worship service, but the outreach and service to people. The service day portion is, you know, very limited. So I personally give to the Boston Food Bank on a monthly basis as part of my service, which is in lieu of, you know, actually doing personal service. I hope other people will take advantage of that. You know, one thing I wish I could do is to evangelize the Christian right.
I'm going to have to pause a little bit. I'm going to have, my battery's running low.
Oh, well, can you plug it in there?
Yeah, well.
Go ahead. That's all right. We'll hold the phone here. I'll continue and say that one of my daydreams is to be able to convert the white evangelical to the Jesus that we know here in this church. And I always have wanted to ask them. I've had colleagues, of course, fellow clergy who are conservative Christians, and I always want to say, why don't you love like Jesus loved? And have you got your cable going there, Michael?
Well, I plugged it in.
Oh, good. We're in business. Well, I was just saying how much I wanted to convert the white evangelical Christian to the Jesus that you and I know. And I want to ask them, what are they so afraid of? Why can't they love in the same way that Jesus loved? And that's going to be a big story, I think, going forward. Of course, you know, famously, Martin Luther King in his letter from Birmingham jail had his criticism of the church, the Christian churches, but especially of white Christian churches. And they're going to have a big struggle on their hands going forward in this next couple of years as people try to sort out their faith and their politics and get those correctly in line. So pull your screen down a little bit, Michael. I'm not seeing you. There we go. Now we're cooking. So that's, you know, that's kind of thing I'd like to say to others. What other message would you have for Americans today as we contemplate Martin Luther King Day? It jumped out at me, of course, that you said that, you know, you feel more inclined towards Malcolm X than King. I know what you're saying there, that we really need to step up our act and our number. Although through, you know, up to, but not including any kind of violent means or.
Well, that's complicated for me, you know. Yes, I feel like I want to embrace Malcolm X rather than King, but I realize, practically speaking, that if we took the Malcolm X approach, the republic is not gonna survive. You know, it's like a you know, sliding down into the second Civil War, and I don't want that to happen. You know, we're all gonna lose if we go down that track. but we nevertheless, I feel that we have to stand up and let the folks know that this is wrong. What you did is wrong, and that you're every day you're insulting me and people like me with your behavior and your statements. That, but I haven't thought it through. You know, that's the dichotomy in my head right now.
Sure, I understand. I appreciate your sharing that. Uh, I wish there was some way to push back at them, but we're going to have to do it through every, every spiritual and moral means that we can. But there are a lot of great leaders. We've got leaders in Congress that are in the representatives. So we have our own. Ayanna Pressley is. I live in Brighton, so she's my representative to Congress, and I'm very proud of that. And I follow what she does and says, and they're going to have to carry the message where it counts. And I think the important thing is to support our legislators right now, because they're our proxies in this fight, right?
I don't know. Have you ever heard Reverend Warnock speak?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, because he seems to be inheriting the mantle that King left, and he has, you know, he's a thoughtful, deep thinker,
Mhm.
and he is the person or one of the people who can help steer us out of this conundrum that we're in.
You're so right. And what a providential thing it is that he not only is a African-American now senator elected, but he's and a minister in the bargain, but he serves the actual same church that King preached in.
Yes, yes.
That is too good for words. And you're right that we will be following him. There's no question about that. Um, he's a fiery preacher. I heard a little bit of it on the TV the other day.
Now, maybe the ministers in the Boston area can get together and sponsor him to come speak to, I don't know, the churches or Trinity, or Old South.
Well, I have a feeling that that's starting to happen, and I think today, the day we're recording this, happens to be the day that there's going to be a demonstration at Faneuil Hall at 4 o'clock, and a public panel to talk about to urge the changing of the name of Faneuil Hall to something that reflects our present values. One of the nominations is to call it Freedom Hall, because that's where a lot of speeches were given in the revolutionary days for freedom, of course. But Faneuil himself, a slave trader,
Mm-hmm.
was only a part of the picture for a brief time. So Freedom Hall might be a good get.
Well, if we do change it to Freedom Hall, Reverend Warnock can be the principal speaker at that
That's right.
service, that ceremony. But that's way beyond.
Yeah, that's right. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Well, listen, we've had a good time to chat a little bit. Michael, any leftover thoughts as we sign off of this interview?
My thoughts would be more focused on you. What do you think about Elliott Church? You know, I maintain that you've got the hardest ministry in the metropolitan Boston area, because you came and COVID also came, and we never got a chance to get to know you, or you know us. And yes, you did the best you can with Zoom, but Zoom is a woeful inadequate substitution for you.
Well, thank you for appreciating that, and I agree with you. And it is very uh, restrictive to have to work this way. But you know what else, Michael? It's got to be turned into an opportunity. And I've been lobbying some of the church members to use the exterior of the church as our ministry. That is, okay, we can't invite people inside quite yet, but we have the whole outside, and that we must learn to articulate our values and our beliefs in ways that people can see driving by or walking by this very busy corner. And so we put up a new sign, two new signs. I don't know if you've driven by lately, but they say, pray with us for racial justice, work with us for change. And then we added the Black Lives Matter signs. And then we will be working on some kind of artistic presentation of what it means. The current idea is to take that phrase of King's about the arc of justice, or the arc of life bends towards justice, and to try and design some kind of, I don't know what to call it, some kind of sculpture or something that would say that to people and remind them every day that you know, every human life is, as King said, is divine, and not only matters. Black lives not only matter, but they are divinely authorized and validated. So we can have a ministry outside, Michael, I hope. And
I think that's a wonderful idea. Have like a design competition. We've got all these architects and art schools in the Boston area. We just put out the guidelines, and everyone submit their proposal, and we pick one, and then we do a fundraising
mhm,
and an installation. That's how the Vietnam Memorial in Washington D.C. was done.
that's right. Right.
And there we have talent in the Boston area to do something like this, and we have money. The larger community has money to support it, and it would be a great um, way for Elliott Church to reach out to the community,
Mhm.
and people get to know Elliott, and it'll be a lasting legacy.
I think that's golden. That's absolutely golden, Michael. I'm going to put that down, and now we're on record here, and I think I have in you my first recruit to be on the jury. Okay, you're going to hear from me. Listen, on that note,
Me and my big mouth.
yep, that's the trouble. You have a brilliant idea, and you're going to get drafted.
Okay, I'll be happy to do it if I can.
Well, that's great. Let the minutes show, and we'll talk again, Michael. Thank you so much for doing this interview together, and God bless you and your family. Keep safe and keep faith with God and with Elliott Church, okay?
All right. Well, God knew what He was doing when He planted me in in Newton Corner.
Oh, great. I believe that. I believe that. Amen. All right.
All the best.
Godspeed.
Thanks.
I'm going to sign off.
Sure. Okay. Bye bye.
All right. Bye.
Technically, what do I do now? I just
We did good. We did good.